"He's back, and it's about time," cried the announcer over the trailer which showcased what was to be the next phase in the evolution of Doctor Who. Gone were the cardboard sets, the tinfoil monsters, and the quintessentially English dialogue, and in their place were high-octane action set pieces, state-of-the-art big-budget CGI special effects, and an American cinematic edge which was set to reboot Doctor Who for the 1990s and beyond. But with a run, if you could even call it that, of just one TV movie and one anniversary mini-episode, what the hell do we do about the 8th Doctor, Paul McGann? Are you a Doctor Who fan curious about the classic series but don't know where to start, or feel overwhelmed by the whopping 695 episodes? Well, have no fear, as in this series I'll be taking you through a beginner's guide for all 8 classic Doctors, including 3 of my own personal story recommendations, which in my opinion give the best representation of each Doctor and their respective eras. I'm Ruby, aka Hooby Jones, that's Petrol the Dalek, and you are watching The 8th Doctor Explained, a Paul McGann era beginner's guide. At the end of 1989, after the broadcast of the serial Survival, Doctor Who was, for a whole host of reasons, officially cancelled by the BBC. Little did fans know at the time, however, that behind the scenes, young British-American TV producer Philip Siegel was negotiating for the rights to produce a big-budget British-American co-production of Doctor Who. Now honestly, how we get from here to the actual finished product is a long and convoluted story, which if you want to know the full ins and outs of, I'll drop a link in the description to Clever Dick Films' video detailing the production and information around this time. But after many years of negotiation and going to and from various studios and various companies, Siegel managed to negotiate the creation of a TV movie rather than a full series, which would act as a backdoor pilot for a brand new series of Doctor Who only if the ratings and interest were high enough in the United States. But who would be tasked with being the Doctor that would introduce this new era of the show to the world? A whole host of famous names auditioned for the role, with even 2 future Doctors, Christopher Eccleston and Peter Capaldi, being invited to audition for the part, but declining to audition for various reasons. After backing and forthing between Fox in the USA and the BBC as to who would be suitable, British actor Paul McGann was cast in the role, an at the time accomplished stage and screen actor, who had grown up with the show and had fond memories of watching the first ever Doctor, William Hartnell, back in the 1960s. With a script from Matthew Jacobs and direction from Jeffrey Sachs, my first pick for this video, Doctor Who, the TV movie, finally made it to screens here in the UK on the 27th of May 1996. And oh boy did it divide the fandom at the time, and it still continues to divide the fandom up until this very day. I, however, had a very different reaction and introduction to the TV movie. When I was younger, YouTube was just sort of coming into its own, and well, it was a wild west where copyright law didn't really exist, and to be honest, I don't think TV companies or film studios had any idea how much of their content was out there for free. Anyway, around the time that the new Series 2 with David Tennant aired, I was so taken with what I saw that when my dad told me that there was all this old Doctor Who that existed, I got on my knees and begged him to show me some of the good stuff. So one evening he had a look on YouTube and he found the Doctor Who movie, split into 10 parts. And over the next week or so I had my young mind blown by the frankly incredibly adult and inappropriate for younger children Doctor Who TV movie. Since then I've seen it many times, and honestly, I love it. I think it's a great watch. Now don't get me wrong, it's flawed, but as 90 minutes of entertainment, it breezes by and there's so much fun to be had there. The film begins with a voiceover from McGann, which sets up the basic premise of the movie, which is that the Master has been tried and executed by the Daleks, and the Doctor, who is still Sylvester McCoy at this point, is tasked with taking his ashes back to Gallifrey. But then after being safely stowed away, the Master escapes as this liquid ooze, forcing the Doctor to land in San Francisco 1999, where he is gunned down in the gangland shooting. This scene in particular is the first indication we've got that things are certainly not the same as they once were, and it invites us into the darker and uber-serious tone of the film, as after he's shot, the Doctor is taken to the hospital by gang member Chang Lee. It is at the hospital where all the usual Doctor Who meets a human tropes play out, where they're all shocked that the Doctor has 2 hearts, etc, and we're also introduced to this era's companion in Grace Holloway, portrayed by Daphne Ashbrook, an on-call surgeon who comes in to operate operate on the Doctor, and there's this really dark and harrowing scene where the anaesthetic to put the Doctor to sleep isn't working, and he wakes up and begs not to be operated on because he's not human. It really is a dark and honestly quite a graphic moment. One of the things I really love though about the TV movie is that the budget of $5 million was put to excellent use, with stunning sets, designs and cinematography throughout that really makes you believe that the Doctor is in mortal danger of dying and the world really could be about to end. The Doctor then tragically seemingly dies, before, whilst being in the morgue scheduled for cremation, regenerates into Paul McGann, who then sets about trying to rediscover his identity. Meanwhile, the Master steals the body of an ambulance attendant portrayed by Eric Roberts and uses Chang Lee in order to find the Doctor and steal his body by opening the Eye of Harmony, which now for some reason powers the TARDIS. Now I think time has been very kind to the TV movie, as now watching it just seems like a strange Hovis 50-50 best of both, and acts as a bridge between what JNT did in the late 1980s with Sylvester McCoy and what Russell T Davies did with Christopher Eccleston in 2005 and beyond. The rest of the TV movie is a real hoot, filled with some quite exciting and unusual action set pieces, which do feel slightly out of place, but then again, this is a new era of Doctor Who. McGann is also instantly the Doctor, from his very first scene right up until the end, and his costume, mannerisms and overall look is just so perfectly Doctorish. I feel like Matthew Jacobs nailed McGann's dialogue, as we have loads of those great eccentric Doctor moments where he amazes Grace by talking about all his time travel exploits and famous people in the past that he met and had dinners with and hung out with. And I love this whole thing where he seems to know what will happen to some people in the future, and he gives them these vague hints to like take a holiday at a certain time, but he can't explain why. I also have to address the controversial moments, which are thus. 1. The Doctor reveals that he is in fact half human on his mother's side, and 2. He kisses Grace and the two develop a sort of romantic relationship, and honestly, neither of these things have never actually bothered me that much. So he's half human. I guess it just explains why he loves Earth so much and felt the need to escape Gallifrey and wander the universe. And yeah, he kisses Grace. I mean, he's dealing with post-regeneration trauma, so maybe he's just acting out and finding himself. I mean, hell, at least he's not strangling his companion like in the Twin Dilemma, so that's always a win. Eric Roberts also gets a lot of criticism levelled at his portrayal of the Master, which is so campy and over the top, and again, I really love it, and I think it's really fun to watch, and it's never really bothered me that much. One thing that I have thought though, coming back to the TV movie as an adult, is how darn similar it is in tone and everything else to Fox's other hit sci-fi show at the time, The X-Files, with Daphne Ashbrook's Grace bearing a striking resemblance and even similar personality and backstory to Gillian Anderson's Dana Scully. The tone, plot devices and the whole dark horror vibe spread throughout are so X-Files coded it's unreal. Heck, the TV movie was even shot in Vancouver, the same place as The X-Files, and there's even all these anecdotes of Paul McGann bumping into the X-Files crew in the lift as they were staying at the same hotel. All in all, the TV movie is a super fun yet flawed romp, which now exists as an interesting curiosity as to what Doctor Who could have become under this new co-production. Sadly though, even though it was watched by 9 million viewers in the UK, the film was a flop in the US, and any plans for a series were just shelved, with Paul McGann, like his two predecessors, being unfairly axed just as he was on the cusp of greatness. Over the next few decades, especially after Christopher Eccleston helmed the next reboot of the show in 2005, we thought we'd never see McGann's Doctor on screen again. That is, until Stephen Moffat shocked us all in 2013 with my next pick for this video, the 50th anniversary mini-episode, The Night of the Doctor. Clocking in at a criminally short 7 minutes, this mini-episode sees the 8th Doctor during the Time War attempting to save a spaceship which is minutes from destruction. This ultimately culminates in the 8th Doctor regenerating into John Hurt's the War Doctor. My only criticism of The Night of the Doctor is that it's so underwhelmingly short. It could be 70 minutes long and we'd still be wanting more and more Paul McGann on screen. And so we've come to the end of the TV reign of the 8th Doctor, Paul McGann. But, for the curious, there is another way to experience this Doctor. Let me introduce Big Finish Productions. Since the late 1990s, Big Finish have been producing officially licensed Doctor Who audio dramas featuring many of the classic and now even modern Doctors, with Paul McGann having recorded over a whopping 150 stories which are available to be bought and listened to. One of the greatest things about Big Finish is that it's not constrained by the shoestring budget of the classic series, and generally they are super immersive listens written by really talented writers that can carry just as much power as the TV series if you listen to them in the right frame of mind. I wanted to recommend a go-to video about Big Finish, but there's so many great ones out there from so many creators that I love that it would be impossible to list them all here. Just search for a beginner's guide to Big Finish or a guide to the 8th Doctor Big Finish and you'll find what you're looking for here on YouTube. And so my friends, we've made it to the end of the first ever series of the Whovian Jones YouTube channel. I'm actually a little bit emotional now. As I said in the last video, the channel now has a Patreon, so if you want to support the work of an independent queer Doctor Who creator and feel that you're able to and it's not a strain, I'd really appreciate it. The link is down in the description. Also, I would love it if you hit subscribe, as when the channel gets to 100 subscribers, I'm going to be doing a very special video about my own personal Doctor Who collection, which I just know that you guys are going to absolutely love. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Whovian Jones YouTube channel.